Over 90% of individuals show risky behavior in handling potential phishing messages, according to ClickArmor's free CanIBeFished.com self-assessment. This engaging coronavirus edition of CanIBeFished.com can help identify your team's total vulnerability to phishing attacks that exploit the pandemic situation. So test your own vulnerability to phishing attacks for free now at CanIBeFished.com.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Shared Security Weekly Blaze, episode 123 for June 1st. And with me is Kevin Johnson. I had to pause there.
Well, you threw me off completely because you went June 1st. I'm like, oh my God, I'm totally messed up with COVID-19.
We're in the future, Kevin. The future.
Oh, man.
Welcome back to the show.
Oh, man. Thank you for having me back.
And I have to torture you a little bit. You did miss the 100th episode of the show that was recorded this week. Total mix-up, and we can fully blame Scott for that.
Totally no, it was my fault. It was totally my fault. I don't know how to read
fault and Scott's fault, but whatever.
It's totally Scott's fault. Yeah, it's awesome, man. 100 episodes. That is really great. That is.
Thank you.
Congrats.
You were a large part of that over the years.
That's only because I'm fat.
Well, I tried to count all the times you were on the podcast, but I lost track. It was just, and it goes way back to, I think you were on episode 3 or 4 of the show when it was the social media security podcast.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
That, yes. I think I was at In Guardians when we.
You were at In Guardians. Yeah. You were our first guest. Yeah.
That was over 10 years ago then.
Yes, it was.
Because
almost
Securideas will be 10 years in August.
Yeah.
Damn. We're old, man.
We are really old.
Yeah, I know I am.
So I have a few topics for this week. And there was some breaking news just today that came out about, now first I do want to preface this news story by saying that this podcast is not a political podcast, and we do not take sides on the political spectrum. So we're going to give you our opinion of a certain crackdown that the President of the United States has decided to push he signed an executive order to push the FCC to tighten its oversight of social media companies like Twitter. So I kind of wanted to put a spin on this, on the kind of the privacy and cybersecurity ramifications of this executive order. And I'd like to start with getting your thoughts about this, Kevin.
Well, and I think we should start with, I want to qualify just like you did. We're not arguing the political aspect of it, right?
Right.
We don't care about the political aspect of it. At least I don't. And to be honest, the whole idea bothers me. I understand the concept, right? Trump tweeted something. Twitter put a link to more information. People have referred to it as fact checking it. I think that's coloring what they did. Really, they just put a link to more information, and the more information was interesting. That pissed off Trump and started this whole thing. I'm really bothered by, and I tweeted something out. I'm blanking on his name. Rob Graham tweeted out this whole big thing that I found really interesting. And, I don't always agree with Rob Graham. In this one I did, Trump went on a rant about this being a First Amendment issue, that Twitter was trying to censor him and that was bad and against the First Amendment, which isn't true. companies, and this is something we see on Twitter all the time and Facebook, and people always say, oh, that company is violating my First Amendment. Companies can't violate your First Amendment rights. The First Amendment protects your free speech from government censorship.
Yes. That's right.
I can tell you to shut that's not censorship.
Now I gotta bleep that out. But yeah.
Oh, man, I'm sorry, I forgot.
But I can censor you, Kevin.
You've got to censor me. First Amendment. That's not censorship. If the government says you can't say something, it's censorship. And it's funny because he's claiming censorship, he's claiming First Amendment, but now he's making it a First Amendment issue because now he's trying to get the government to step in and prevent somebody from doing something. And we can argue Citizens United, we can argue whether companies should have First Amendment rights, right? That kind of stuff. I think that's all interesting, but I think that's a problem. And I do think that from a privacy and from a cybersecurity standard issue, we have bigger issues here, because if we start to allow governments to start issuing edicts and start making changes to how companies, platforms like Facebook and Twitter and whoever have to do things, we're going to start seeing a lot more closedness. That's not a real good word, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
Right?
Yep.
We get a lot of really good information, at least I do, with protecting my clients, protecting myself, learning new techniques and tips and tricks on how to do testing and tools that are released that I can imagine us not seeing if Twitter and Facebook start to have to limit that type of communication.
Yeah,
That worries me.
it is. And it reminds me a lot of, remember what they've done in like Germany and other countries where they're banning hacking tools, right?
Yeah.
For various reasons, because maybe they don't understand, what we do as pen testers and security professionals. But I agree with you on your point is, how far will the government step? And then last week on the show, I talked about the whole encryption and backdoor debate where, law enforcement now and the attorney general himself has said that he wants Apple and other tech companies to build in backdoors so they can access data whenever they want. And thankfully, Apple and other tech companies have come out and said, this is a horrible idea and we will never do that. And they can't tell them what to do because they are a private corporation.
Yep.
To your point. It's a dangerous precedent, and I think it is something that we should all be concerned about, no matter what side of the political spectrum that you fall on.
Yeah, I think that I believe, talking politics for a second, every political opinion, political side, other than the nut job ones, can see a reason why this is a bad idea. If you're far left, far right, middle ground, there's a reason why this is bad, that fits what your platform. And I think that we all want to stop this, and that doesn't even get into, and that's another topic for another day of the expansion of power of the executive branch and why that's a bad idea. Pushing something like this by executive order is bad anyways.
And now a word from our sponsor, Edgewise Networks. The biggest problem in security that remains unsolved are flat networks in cloud and data centers, with unprotected attack paths that allow threats to move laterally to cause data breaches. But microsegmentation using network addresses is complicated and takes too much time. But there's a better approach. Edgewise Zero Trust Auto Segmentation. Edgewise is impossibly simple microsegmentation, delivering results immediately with a security outcome that's provable. At the core of Edgewise Auto Segmentation is Zero Trust Identity, which allows workloads to communicate only after their software identity has been verified. Malicious or unimproved software is no longer allowed to communicate. Identity-based protection provides more coverage with fewer policies to make Edgewise simple to deploy and manage. No changes to the application or network are required. One solution protects virtual machines and containers in the cloud and on-premises. To stop lateral threat movement and prevent breaches, visit edgewise.net for a demo and to see results within minutes.
Which I think, you started moving us down to the second topic, we wanted to talk about, encryption backdoors.
I know, where do I start? But yeah. No.
Yeah, horrible idea. This is one of those cases of, and I had this conversation with somebody on Twitter yesterday, and it was actually funny. It was about the Twitter thing with Trump, but it fits the answer of the encryption backdoors. We see so often where bad ideas are presented for good reasons, right? We want to protect the children, or, there's terrorists out there. And if you just help us do this one thing, and I was just reading this article, the FBI acknowledged that they didn't need the encryption backdoor to catch this bad guy. But dang it, it's wrong that Apple didn't help them with an encryption backdoor. And it's like, but you didn't need it. So why is it wrong? And, this idea that we can keep backdoors for the good guys. Look, I'm a pen tester, you're a pen tester. How many of those backdoors only work for the good guys? Right? Like,
first thing that somebody's going to go after.
Exactly. Right. It's asinine. It's a show of ignorance. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that it's ignorance and not outright stupidity when they say that they can keep it for the good guys. I lean toward believing it's really stupidity. But I'll give them ignorance.
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't it just a lot of lack of knowledge of technology and how things work? I mean, I know I've had friends I've had friends in the FBI, and when I was working at the bank, and I remember all the conversations that, these judges that were issuing warrants and things for, cybersecurity investigations, especially for computer fraud and things like that, they really didn't understand the technology, the terminology, or anything. And so, these FBI agents had to translate, complex topics like malware and encryption and, obfuscation and things. And the judges just didn't get it. They just don't understand it. And I think that's a lot of the same thing we're seeing with some of the government officials of they don't understand it. So they just outright saying, well, why can't you just give it to me?
Yeah, I do expert witness work, and I've testified in cases all the way up to the Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission. And when I talk to judges, when I talk to lawyers, there is an ignorance. And I want to be very clear for the people who think ignorance is an insult. It's not. Ignorance means you just don't know.
They don't know.
And they don't understand the technology, and it is exactly what you're saying. Just why can't you give that to me? Why can't you let me see that? And that's why it's so important. And I've had this conversation on Facebook, on Twitter. I try very hard to use the right words while we try to explain it correctly, while we try to not just yell and rant and curse at people, but explain it. Because if we don't explain it, if we don't teach it and educate it, we can't expect them to get past the ignorance, right? We can't just say, no, don't do that. We have to explain why, and we have to show them, right? And I think that looking at things like, look, wasn't just this morning, they showed yet more problems with SHA-1, right? And that's a random tangent, but we're seeing so many problems with encryption that weren't put in there and hashing and whatever that weren't put in there on purpose. Why would we introduce problems on purpose? Right?
Yeah.
It's just a bad idea. And I think that we as I hesitate to say the experts, because I said you as the expert and me as the idiot that people keep hiring. We really need to just make sure that we're showing them why we do it this way. And I also think that what we need to do is work with law enforcement, work with government officials to show them other ways. Like, for example, so the FBI said they didn't need the backdoor on that one case that was just recently talked about in the news. Okay, fine. How did you do it? Let's do that again, right? Reveal your means. And that's the problem, is they don't reveal the means. They just say, we didn't need the backdoor, but give us the backdoor. No, let's put out a Freedom of Information Act request and find out how they did it, so that the next time they demand a backdoor, we point them back at that.
Yeah, or why can't the FBI educate, those government officials like the Attorney General, and saying, hey, sit down with us for a minute and let's show you, right, how difficult this is. And what you're asking is, and I'm sure there's people in the FBI that are willing to push back a little bit, right? I would hope.
And I hope so.
Yeah. And there are very good people in the FBI. I know some personally. So I know that there is opportunities there. And I think that's what we need more of.
Yeah. And we need to support those people. So.
Absolutely. 100%. So, so what do you got going on, Kevin? What, anything new, any updates from Secure Ideas? Yeah. You're making pens. I know you're making pens. I've seen that. That's your new passion. You're pen testing.
Yes, I am pen testing and pen making. And our CISP class starts next week. I'm excited about that. And I don't know, we're just having a good time. That's that's it.
Party in a pandemic.
Party in a pen.
I just coined that, by the way.
What are you doing? What's exciting for you coming up?
Oh, really not much, since conferences are, well, there's still conferences, virtual. I'm hoping to maybe submit a talk or two in the future here. I've been like everybody else, just kind of trying to get through this, and work, of course, is keeping me busy. So as you know,
we all now. Okay, so I do have something I'd like to challenge everybody to. So OWASP Top 10 has postponed the Top 10 release. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so they are putting out a data request. They've put out the format, and they just maybe a week ago accepted my pull request for a sample data. They came up with the data they want. Mm-hmm. I want to be very clear. I don't necessarily agree with the data they're asking for, but I'm not going to argue that. But I came up with a sample CSV file and a sample JavaScript object notation JSON file. And I did a pull request. They accepted it. And I'm going to put out a call out to every pen test company to submit data from the last 3 years from their tests, so that we can get real data for the top 10. Because the last top 10, 2017, we got data almost exclusively from automated tools. And while I appreciate, like you and I've talked about it.
Yes.
I love the fact that the automated tool teams, Veracode being one of them, gave data. It skewed the results heavy toward not good stuff. We have to get great data out there. And the only way to do that is to get real data from real teams. And so I'd like to see as many pen test teams, internal teams, consulting teams, whatever, go out to the OWASP Top 10 GitHub repo, pull those sample files and start collecting data and submit it. They've postponed the top 10 to 2021. So you have like
a lot of time.
To collect this data. But if you don't collect the data and submit it, we're going to get a crap top 10, just like we got in 2017. So that's what I want people to do. we're doing it. I'm assigning staff and putting my money and my time where my mouth is, but I need other people to do the same.
Awesome.
So
We'll help get the word out. Absolutely.
cool.
All right. Well, that's all for this show. But thank you, Kevin, once again for joining us and giving you your opinion and thoughts of the current state of events here. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
But we'll see everyone next week. Thanks, everyone.